Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MtG Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is rotation-proof Simic Merfolk for Dominaria Standard. So there are a lot of you out there that do not like Kaladesh, do not like Aether Revolt, do not like Amonkhet, or even Hour of Devastation, because you know if you invest in those cards, they're going to be rotating out of Standard in October. So I'm going to try and kind of like filter in a little bit of decks that are going to make rotation-proof considered until actual rotation happens in October. Well, yes, we do have another set, the core set, coming out soon for this actual standard format. I did want to kind of see what we could do, what we could probably see looking forward into the next standard rotation to see what kind of decks are going to be really powerful and what kind of decks are, not so much. And one of the decks I came across was the Simic Merfolk list. Merfolk, it really isn't losing anything at all with the rotation happening, and it's gaining basically everything as far as like how fast it is, how powerful it is, and how much it can actually do in the format right now, even against other cards that are in Kaladesh and Amonkhet block. So let's jump into it right now with, of course, starting with the creatures. We've got Jade Bearer, Cumena Speaker, and Deep Root Elite with Merfolk Mistbinder and Silvergale Adept. So there's going to be kind of a weird like mishmash of like numbers as far as like 3 ofs, 2 ofs, 4 ofs, that kind of thing. The reasons, of course, is during testing, I really wanted this to do really well against the mono red aggro list right now in standard, of course, after the Pro Tour and that kind of stuff. So after kind of a lot of messing with this list, I think I've came to a list I'm happy with having on against the mono red aggro lists. Jade Bearer giving another Merfolk a counter, a Deep Root Elite giving itself or other Merfolk's counters, Mistbinder, pumping our entire board, Adapt giving us the ability to draw a card, and Cumena Speaker just a great 1-drop on turn 1. The reason there aren't any more speakers is because we want to make sure we're pushing forward throughout the match. But all of these guys are super powerful and super good at what we want to do. Mistbinders and Elites, especially if we get to double up on those guys or triple up on them, they're very, very useful for us for our board state. Moving on though to our more, upper end bombs, we have our 4 of Jungleborn Pioneer, Cumena, Tyrant of Araska, and 2 of Vineshaper Mystic. The Mystic is here for that a really, really annoying Goblin Chainwhirler in the mono red aggro deck right now. If we're on the play, it comes in and makes itself a 2/4, being able to block the Chainwhirler, as well as giving another counter to something else, so maybe making the Deep Root Elite survive, something like that. If we play a Deep Root Elite on turn 2, then a Mystic on turn 3, we can actually distribute 3 counters across 2 different creatures, which is super good for us as well. The Pioneer is here for us to get enough creatures so the Cumena, Tyrant of Araska, can get off with its tap abilities, but it's also really good at being able to have the Elite go off as well. So if there's an Elite and we play the Jungleborn Pioneer, we're getting 2 triggers as well, which is very, very useful for the Elite, being able to distribute 2 counters somewhere, mostly on the Hexproof creature, as well as probably the Elite itself if it's still a 1/1. We want to make sure that none of our creatures have 1 toughness for very long, if at all, and all of our creatures kind of go towards doing that. Cumena, Tyrant of Araska is a complete 4 here because we really, really need this card to kind of go off as quickly as possible. Tapping 3 Merfolk means we draw a card. Tapping 5 means we put a +1/+1 counter on everything. And on blocks, this card is super good, as well as we can tap just 1 Merfolk and make it unblockable. So very useful for us in the mid to late game. And if an opponent is playing a slower strategy, or they don't have a lot of removal on the board state, or if they just have like damage removal, like a Shock or a Lightning Strike or a Braid, then Cumena, Tyrant of Araska is really going to like hurt their board state a lot. But that's it for creatures. Let's move on to our spells really quickly. One of the things is a lot of people in their actual Merfolk list right now are putting in a in the middle of the deck like a Spell Pierce. I kind of am against that for game 1. For now, we want to go with Dive Down, Blink of an Eye, and River Herald's Boon. River Herald's Boon is super useful for us, turning a 1/1 into a 4/4, possibly like a Cumena Speaker, for instance. As soon as you play an island, it turns into a 2/2, then 2 more counters, turning it into a 4/4. Super good for us. But it's also very good on the attack, on the defense, and surviving any kind of damage coming towards our board state, thanks to a Goblin Chainwhirler or a Lightning Strike or something like that, making sure our creatures survive. Instant speed, 2 counters on something, very, very useful. Or 2 counters on 2 different things, super useful. Blink of an Eye here is for bouncing a Planeswalker, bouncing a random token we don't like, or just bouncing something and also drawing a card if we have the mana to do so in the mid to late game. And Dive Down is here to just protect our creatures like Cumena against an Unlicensed Disintegration or a Vraska's Contempt or something like that. So Blossoming Defense is rotating out in October, and Dive Down is basically the only replacement for that card, but it does give us +0/+3, meaning we can actually block something as well pretty handedly. The last spell in the actual main board here is a 2 of River's Rebuke. So right now in the aggro list, right now in the black white knight list, you have a bunch of stuff going really wide. History Benalia is super impactful right now. River's Rebuke is basically a giant board wipe on their side of the field. That means we're going to win the game. For 6 mana sorcery, return all non-land permanents target player controls to their owner's hand. So this does mean if they have History Benalias on the battlefield, they will go back to their hand so they can replay them the following turn. So if you play this against the History Benalia deck, you want to make sure that this is going to be the game-winning spell to close out that match. I will say River's Rebuke did get me out of a bunch of tight spots, especially in the knight lists and the mono red aggro lists during testing. But that's all the spells and deck lists besides lands. Let's go over lands really quickly here. We have, of course, 7 forest, 6 island, 2 memorial to unity. Really like this card in the deck list. 4 unclaimed territory, 4 hinterland harbor, and 1 Arc of Araska. So we probably will be getting our city's blessings super quickly. So Arc of Araska is a good mid to late game card draw mechanic, as well as memorial to unity being a great way to dig 5 cards deep, grab a creature off the top of it, and put it into our hand. So maybe a Mistbinder or maybe a Cumena, something like that. We want to make sure we can grab and put it into our hand for only 3 mana and a land. But as far as the rest of the cards go, everything else is pretty simple. I really dislike unclaimed territory in like this kind of deck because we really do need the mana. But we have, 26 creatures in the deck list here, so we really do need unclaimed territory here to make sure we get those creatures out. But we really need the double blue for the River's Rebuke. We really do need blue and green for all of our other spells. So unclaimed territory can be kind of awkward at times, but if we have a lot of creatures in our hand, it's a very, very good card. But that is the full 60 on the game 1 game plan. Let's go to the game 2 game plan and see what we can do against the more control heavy matchups. We have Naturalize, Negate, Kopala, Warden of Waves, and Tatyova Benthic Druid, is that how you pronounce it, I hope? Don't really know for sure. Naturalize is here for those God First Gift matchups. Naturalize is here for, the Heart of Cure and that kind of stuff in the current standard. Scrap Heap Scrounger, stuff like that, as well as dealing with the artifact creatures that Karn can create. So some people like to play Karn out and then -2 immediately to give a nice, like, 5/5 if they have a lot of artifacts on their side of the field. We can actually just destroy that and hit Karn directly, most likely killing it. Negate is here for those, settle the wreckage, that kind of things. Kopali is also here because we have a lot of spot removal in the format thanks to the mono red aggro. It's a 3-mana 2/2. Spells your opponent cast at target a merfolk you control cost 2 extra more to cast, and abilities your opponent activate that target a merfolk you control cost 2 extra more to cast as well. So a Glory Bringer, a Unlicensed Disintegration, a Lightning Strike, all that kind of stuff costs 2 extra mana for them to play or cast. So Kopala is here for a mid-range or a black-red control-heavy matchup, and Tatyova here is actually here for the slower mid-range and control matchups for sure, because especially against Godfrey's Gift, very, very good because they're pitching stuff into the graveyard. They're trying to set up their board state. Tatyova gives us card draw and a life, and makes us basically draw 2 cards a turn. Super useful, as well as being a 3/3/2, so it can be a 4/4 and get in for much more damage thanks to our other cards in the deck list. But I just wanted to put a 1-of in here because I think it's just good enough for being a 1-of. Moving on here to more aggro control, we have a Merfolk Trickster, Essence Scatter, Herald of Secret Streams, and Tempest Caller. So Tempest Caller and Herald are here for tapping down an opponent's board state and swinging in for the win, or making our entire board state unblockable if they have counters on top of them, and then swinging in for the win as well. Trickster is here to slow down a bunch of like Glory Bringers, slow down a Rekindling Phoenix in that mono red aggro matchup, and the Essence Scatter is here to kind of just get rid of like a Hazard the Fervent or a Rekindling Phoenix or something like that they're casting out on curve. But that is the full 75, guys. Let's go to the actual deck list here and see how much this is going to cost you. If you want to build this on MTG or Traders, it's coming to about 20 tickets, which is not bad at all. And if you want to build this on paper right now, because the deck list isn't doing or seeing that much play, it's only coming to about 78 bucks. The most expensive stuff online, of course, are Cumena, Tyrant of Araska. And if you want to build this in paper, the Cumena, Tyrant of Araska is again the most expensive card in the deck list, with Hinterland Harbor just behind that at around $10 each for the full playset. But that is going to do it today, guys. Hope you liked the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like it. Comment below on a deck you want me to cover in the near future. We probably won't do too many rotation-proof decks for now until, obviously October hits. So we're probably, leaning more towards that once the core set comes out. We'll see what's in that kind of set. But this is kind of something that I kind of wanted to test right now. And, of course, let me know what you think in the comments down below. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Love you all, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.